the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7, and a whole bunch of other places that we'll talk about in just a bit. And joining me today as my co-host is the exceptional one, the exceptional conservative from Washington, D.C., my very good friend, Kenneth McClinton. Ken, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Rick, it is always an honor and privilege to be with you on Friday afternoons, and all the great people from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, and all on the Conservative Commandos radio network. What a jam-packed day it is, my benevolent dictator.
Indeed, indeed. In fact, let's do this, Ken. We've got so much going on today. Let's start out our program by telling our audience who our guests will be.
Well, of course, the beautiful Karen Leland, who is president of Sterling Marketing Group, will be with us. She'll be talking about how voters access a candidate. We're talking about branding our candidates for presidency. Colonel James Wyatt, a historical figure from the U.S. Army, will be joining us to talk about the Nannie Helen Burroughs Project in a presentation at the Civitas Institute Conservative Leadership Conference coming up in March. And as well, Daryl Glenn, who is running for the U.S. Senate out in Colorado, will be joining us to talk about Antonin Scalia and the campaign that he is creating as an originalist for the U.S. Senate. And then finally, our big guest for the afternoon at 4:45, Dr. Ben Carson will be joining us to talk about his campaign in South Carolina. And by polling that we've recently seen just out, he is at 11%, which puts him in third place.
Wow.
In South Carolina.
Wow. That is huge. That is huge. So, again, Ken, we got a great show lined up. Also, we're going to have Annie Ibellis joining us. She is at the Conservative Conference. It's being sponsored by Conservative Review in Greensboro, South Carolina. I watched the convention last night. I watched the webcast of the convention last night. They had a great time. A lot of great speakers. Ben Carson was there. Ted Cruz was there. Mark Levin was there. And it's great that Annie is going to join us to give us kind of like a bird's eye view. She's there. She'll tell us what her observations are. So we do have a great show lined up, Ken.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. And we just also want to thank His Pontiff, Pope John Paul, for giving us something to talk about.
Wait, Ken, I know you're an old man, but do you mean John Paul or do you mean Pope Francis?
Yeah, that's all right. They're all alike. No, they're not. Pope Francis. I wish I had Pope John Paul, but Pope Francis yesterday making his comments that those who build walls are not Christian, which puts me at a very big disappointment here because I had planned on building a wall around my house.
Well, down there in Washington, D.C., Ken, maybe you need it. But what about Donald Trump's reaction to what the Pope said? It's like, Donald Trump, he doesn't get enough in fighting with Ted Cruz or Ben Carson or Mark Marco Rubio or Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, but now he's got to pick a fight with the Pope. I mean, is that all this man does, is fight with people, Ken? I mean, when are we going to hear about some of his vision for America? What are his plans for destroying ISIS? What are his plans for our economy? What about health care? He said he's going to give us something terrific, but so far, Ken, there have been zero details. But no, he's very involved in fighting everybody that walks down the street.
Well, I love his ego. The one thing you can say about Donald Trump is that he has the perfect ego to be a world leader.
Well, I don't know if he does or not, Ken, because, you see, in my crazy way of thinking, you don't alienate people the way Donald Trump seems to do. That's his modus operandi. I mean, as the President of the United States, he is looked upon as the leader of the free world. My God, this guy wants to get into a fight with everybody who has a different opinion than what he does. And I don't know that that's going to work that well with other governments. I don't know how that's going to work as a leader. And frankly, Ken, I'm getting a little sick and tired of him. I'm getting a little sick and tired of his mouth. And as I said, I want to see more of his plan for America, which he has not talked about, Ken.
Well, whatever it is, it's going to be huge. Oh, we know. Whatever it is, it's going to be huge.
And speaking of huge, Ken, we got such a huge show. We're going to take our break a little bit early so we can get everything in today. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos with Ken McClinton and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network at WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. I love to say this every day. Today's show is being brought to you by the First Amendment, protected by the Second. Ken and I will be right back.
That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle sportshop.com.
Why will you be required to show photo ID at the Nevada caucus on February 23rd? To protect the integrity of your vote. Why will nobody be required to show photo ID on November 4th when we pick a president? Because it's the law. You can change this. When you go to the Nevada caucus on Tuesday, February 23rd, sign the voter ID initiative at the door. It's simply wrong that your vote can be disenfranchised by anyone without a photo ID on Election Day. Sign the voter ID initiative now. Vote for it in November. You can protect your vote with one signature on your way to vote for the president on February 23rd. Security is one of the prime topics this year, so why not secure your vote with one signature? Sign the voter ID initiative to be sure your vote counts. The single best way to stop voter fraud is to sign the voter ID initiative. One signature starts the process to protect your vote forever in Nevada. Join Sharon Angle and Our Voice PAC. Visit ourvoicepac.com to read the initiative. Let's change this and bring real integrity back to elections.
Paid for by Our Voice Nevada PAC, not affiliated with any candidate or candidates committee.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Ken McClinton and yours truly, Rick Trader. And for rebroadcast of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com, at 1 p.m., roarradio.net, and also at 9 p.m., highplainsdailynews.com. And you can also hear our show and all the shows that are associated with the Conservative Commandos radio network here at WNJC 1360 any time of the day by calling 832-999-1199. That's 832-999-1199. And Ken McClinton, we are waiting for a call for Annie Abella. She's on the grounds. She's there at the Conservative Convention, which is being sponsored by Conservative Review. And so we hope to be hearing from Annie real soon.
Exactly. There's so much happening on the ground, and one of the big stories that's festering is the numbers that are being reported for Donald Trump have sizably fallen from his, demonstrative 20-point lead of last week and maybe the week before. It has dropped nearly 16 points. It's looking as if he's only 5 points ahead of his competitors, and it looks as if great love is being shown to persons like Carson, to Ted Cruz, to Kasich. These are amazing, and if it is the fact that he only wins by a single digit, it might send some treading signs to the rest of America in terms of Donald Trump's viability as a candidate for the presidency.
Well, Ken, I think a lot of us can go back to last Saturday night, that debate. That was a horrible performance from Donald Trump. And again, I really do think that America is starting to see Donald Trump for exactly what he is. One thing, another thing that he has brought up again, one more time, that he doesn't feel like he's being treated fairly by the GOP. And if they don't start treating him fairly, he's going to run as a third-party candidate. This is what he's saying now. That if the GOP doesn't condemn Ted Cruz, he's going to run as a third-party candidate, which, in my opinion, was his plan all along. That and to have get his picture on TV more often, which is kind of hard to do. But Ken, I really want America to wake up and to vet these candidates. I really do. I really do.
Yeah, I think the absence of him at the Iowa debate sent a strong message to the rest of America that, okay, the party's over. We've had a great time. We've knocked out some people who were hangers-on. Certainly Christie out of New Jersey and Gilmore certainly out of Virginia. Mm-hmm. But this is a serious moment that we have to seriously decide on who's going to be the president of the United States of America. And it can't be someone who every single day is telling you that someone is being fair to him and someone's not being fair to him, someone in the media loves him, someone in the media hates him. We need substance. And that debate in Iowa gave an opportunity for individuals to see that there are some substantive people on the stage. And Ted Cruz coming out just recently in the NBC poll showing that he's a national leader over Donald Trump, and that's just one poll, of course. But still, the numbers are beginning to tread to the point where I think they are listening to you.
Yeah.
I think they are waking up.
Ken, I think, and with the death of Justice Scalia, I think this shook a lot of people to their core. And they're starting to wake up and realize how important this election is. Donald Trump is, in his own words, praised his sister, this was last August, his sister, who is a very liberal judge in the Third Circuit, who has defended Planned Parenthood. He said that she would make an excellent choice to be on the Supreme Court. Now, if he thinks that she would make an excellent choice, what is his criteria for someone to sit on the Supreme Court?
Well, I think his criteria is someone who's donated to a Democrat, supported a liberal agenda, and has treated him fairly. If you can do those three things, you could be on the Supreme Court. I love Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, coming out and saying earlier this week that Mike Lee would be the perfect replacement from out of the U.S. Senate, out of Utah, for the Supreme Court. Someone who understands the original intent and constructs of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Well, we certainly do need conservatives. Let me take that back. In my opinion, we need somebody who's going to adhere to our Constitution and judge by our Constitution. Not what they like or what they think or they believe how things should be, but to follow the laws that are set up by our founding fathers in the Constitution. We had a guest on, we had Hans von Spakovsky on last Monday from the Heritage Foundation, and I thought he made a great point. And that point was that Justice Scalia sometimes upset conservatives because he ruled against them, because he thought a law or a ruling was not constitutional. And in my opinion, that's what we need. We need justices that are going to adhere to the Constitution and rule using the Constitution as their guideline, as their Bible, per se.
Yeah. Someone who's going to call balls and strikes as they are, right in the square, that they are strikes and outside they're balls. We need a person as a judge who understands, and as a justice, that his role is not to change the law or to present his philosophical ideals to the world through litigation and judgments on litigation. It is his role to make certain that when someone comes before the court, they can be given a just environment to present their case, and that their case, when in alignment with the Constitution, is duly served and protected. Simple as that.
I agree with that 100%. Ken, unfortunately, we have not been able to hook up with Annie here. Hopefully, she's okay and everything. But, Ken, we got a few more minutes. Anything else on your radar screen?
Well, there's a lot on the radar screen today. But let's go to Kentucky for just one moment. We got to love Kentucky because they have really been doing all that they can to make certain that those who believe in God do not have to apologize for showing up to work. And in fact, they recently have passed legislation, the Kentucky Senate, that approves two separate marriage license forms. One that shows bride and groom for straight couples, and the other that shows, well, whatever, first party, second party. Mm-hmm. And it gives liberty to the clerks to sign based on traditional marriage and their beliefs of faith, and also gives them the opportunity for someone else, possibly in their clerkdom, to sign over the other portions. And this goes along with what Clerk Kim Davis did, and she was at the State of the Union address with me in Washington.
Oh, did you get to meet her, Ken? Did you get to meet her?
No, I did not get a chance to meet her, unfortunately. I saw her across the room, and I'm very honored to be with her at this event. But she won a victory that's duly honorable. Mm-hmm. And we can see it right now in the legislature in Kentucky. And the governor has already made very clear that if the bill comes to his desk, he will definitely sign it.
Well, that's a very good thing. You know, Ken, I think people should have the rights to leave their property to whoever they want to.
Yep.
But marriage is between a man and a woman. Always has been, always will be. Always has been, always will be.
Exactly. Want to get your intake real quick, because I know that we got a jam-packed show today.
Yes.
But your thoughts about Apple Computer in the phone.
That is something I have not followed a lot, only briefly. From what I understand, the FBI wants Apple Computer to hack into the phone of one of the San Bernardino shooters. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And they are refusing to do so on what grounds, Ken?
They're refusing to do so because they do not believe it's constitutional for the U.S. government to force them to create software that would hack into an encrypted device such as the iPhone. Because if you make that one key, you have set up the course by which there is no one key. It will all be keys that are owned by the federal government into every person's private sanctuary in terms of their phones and data. And we already have the NSA going through metadata at this particular point and can't figure out why they can't download the information that they already have collected from the phone through the metadata that they have.
Let me ask you a hypothetical situation, Ken.
Yeah.
And I know this may be sensitive to you because you lost a daughter this past summer. What if there is something on that phone that could save the life of your other daughter or your wife? Would you want Apple to help the government find that information?
Would I want Apple to help? Yes, I would. Would I understand the fact that everyone else's liberty and freedom is not worth just one life? Yes, I understand that as well. Mm-hmm. And I would not want our liberty to be subject to the rule of a desperate government for the sanctity.
Isn't it a desperate government, Ken, or is it a government who is truly interested in saving the lives of people? Like you, me, your wife, or your daughter.
Well, we have to find that government because my personal opinion is I know that there's some people with noble intentions, but I also know that via scrutiny, even in my particular case with my daughter, there are individuals that want the status quo and want to rule America rather than govern. And I don't want to give them that flexibility to take away our constitutional right simply because I get purposed and satisfied in one particular case.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, it's a complex situation. So I have to know more about it, Ken, to be honest with you, before I determine or decide. But I can see both sides of the argument on this one.
Yes.
Hey, Ken, with that, let's take our first break because we got so much to deal with today here on the show. And you are listening to Conservative Commandos with Ken McClinton and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM FM 24/7. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Karen Leland. You don't go away. We'll be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Dilks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night at Concord Bridge in Trenton. For freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Tuesday, February 23rd, the historic Nevada caucus to select the president. You can make history even bigger. Sign the citizen initiatives that will take Nevada in the right direction. First, the Voter ID Initiative to protect your vote in November. Currently, anyone without identification can vote in Nevada elections. Second, the Pupil Privacy Protection Initiative to secure the data that is collected on children at school so that it cannot be released without the parents' permission. And third, the Healthcare Freedom Protection Initiative. It's time voters had a chance to end the failed Obamacare exchange in Nevada. One signature on each of these will make this historic day in Nevada even bigger. Sign these initiatives right at the door on your way into the Nevada caucus on Tuesday, the 23rd. Join Sharon Angle and Our Voice Pack. Visit OurVoicePack.com to read the initiatives. It's time to make this happen with your help.
Paid for by Our Voice Nevada PAC, not affiliated with any candidate or candidates committee.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, www.ccrsnetwork.com and www.ccrshow.com. On mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. Or at 1 p.m., log on to www.roarradio.net. That's R-O-A-R radio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. Now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Ladies and gentlemen, this young woman has been championing the cause of branding and marketing for a quarter of a century. Karen Leland is the president of Sterling Marketing Group, a brand and marketing strategy and implementation firm. She works with CEOs and executives and entrepreneurs on building stronger personal, business, and team brands. Karen is the best-selling author of 9 books, which have sold over 450,000 copies and have been translated into 10 languages. Her latest book, The Brand Mapping Strategy, Design, Build, and Accelerate Your Brand, is due out May 2016 from Entrepreneur Press. Without further ado, Ms. Karen Leland, it's a great honor and privilege to have you on the air with us today at the Conservative Commandos Radio Network.
Thank you, and particularly thank you for that, calling me a young lady.
You are indeed a young woman with great achievement and great accomplishment, and sincerely, the worst thing that people can do is write about something they don't experience for themselves, and you have branded yourself, and you have done extremely well. I want you to tell everyone, first and foremost, what exactly is branding? Is that one of those little nuances, that set you aside at the cocktail party?
Well, yes, that is one of the things it is. Well, there's a couple of things. Jeff Bezos of Amazon said, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So that's part of what branding is. But branding is really taking your best personal assets and using them, and I mean using them in the best possible way, really using them to communicate a story and a narrative about who you are, what you stand for, what you're committed to, what you can produce, etc. That's really what branding is.
And so over the years,
what you or your business can do, I should say. Sorry.
So over the years, what companies do you think have done extremely well in terms of branding themselves and keeping that positive conversation about their achievements and accomplishments?
Right. Well, let's look at a really great example, okay, which is Starbucks. Starbucks has done a brilliant job of branding themselves. And look at this last thing that just happened, which is they got some criticism recently for the amount of sugar in their drinks, right?
Yes.
And true to their brand and keeping their brand healthy, what did they do? They immediately responded and said they're looking at it and they're going to respond to it. So they, even in the situation where some negative press has come up, they immediately get on it and take care of it. So, a really well-established brand like Starbucks, and I'm using a big brand that everyone knows, obviously, that consistency over time and that ability to react quickly and that ability to be able to pivot in the marketplace is part of what keeps the brand healthy, robust, great.
Now, Karen, you have worked with some great companies over the years. I mean, extremely tremendous companies over the years. And, when it comes to any sport, most people will tell you that you can coach someone to a point where they don't want to do what you coach them to do. Are there any companies out there that could have taken advice that would have helped their brand overcome challenges, per se?
You mean big name companies or people?
Well, both in this particular case.
Well, for example, look at what happened to excuse me. Look at what happened to Brian Williams. That whole situation that he was under. I mean, I think it was mishandled, don't you?
Yes, it was. But
not that it would be all that recoverable, but I think Bill Cosby's a great example of really handling that situation badly. And it's a hard situation, and the best outcome would be, a complete apology and making things up and all of that, which isn't going to happen and wasn't going to happen. But you just can see people where when things go badly, like the Brian Williams situation, where they don't actually handle it well, where they don't really take the measures they need to handle it well. Because part of the problem is we live in a world where things just go instant on social media.
Now, social media has been a big thing, and we have a guest on today at 4:45, Dr. Ben Carson, who has done extremely well of using social media. In terms of politics, are there any candidates here who have just not used social media to the fullest to exemplify the greatness behind the brand?
I don't think Jeb Bush has done a particularly great job of using social media as compared to somebody, let's say, like Bernie Sanders, who's done it, who's a lot of his support is millennials, and he's done a fabulous job of communicating with them through that medium. Whereas I think Jeb Bush has taken, I know he has done social media, but he's taken a much more traditional approach. And I think that's not his only problem, but I think that's one area where he really missed the boat.
I talk to people about in the political world jumping in all the way into social media, using Facebook, using Pinterest, using Twitter and Twatter or whatever it takes.
If they use Twatter, it's way more expensive. Now that could cost you an election.
Carolina, you're awesome. But there's such a reticence among some individuals. They want to operate within the confines of their traditional political. What do you do to loosen people up and say, hey, there are other strategies that you can use to be successful?
Well, I think I know I deal a lot with CEO branding and executive branding and thought leadership. And what happens is people tend to stick with what they know and what they're comfortable with. So part of it is just having people understand and have a greater comfort level with some of these other things to do and realizing that there are ways to get them done. So as soon as people don't know how to do something, they get extremely overwhelmed. So part of it is honestly just an educational piece.
Now, are there inexpensive ways that individuals can pursue that would thoroughly improve their brand? And then I want to talk about your essay after this answer.
Absolutely. One of the first things I do when a new client calls me, is I take a look at I do a Google search on them online, and then I look at their LinkedIn profile. And 90% of the people that I deal with, their LinkedIn profiles are woefully insufficient. And statistically, something like 77% of the people you're going to do business with or you're going to interact with and know they're going to interact with you, they're going to check you out on LinkedIn first. So one of the things I tell people is you've got to get those LinkedIn profiles up to speed and really reflecting your brand and what you do, because that is often the first place people will go to check in on who you are. So that's an inexpensive thing everyone can do. I mean, obviously I have people who hire me to do it for them, but you can do it yourself. You just have to spend some time doing it. So that's free, but it has a big impact.
Awesome. Listen, we have a great bonus here today. Karen Leland, who is the president of Sterling Marketing Group, is with us today. And for all you politicians who are listening around the country who are conservative, you might want to put your ear to the radio a little closer as we talk in the next segment. regarding a wonderful essay that she put together, How Voters Assess a Candidate. If you could hang with us just a few more moments while we go to break, Ms. Leland.
I would be delighted to hang while you go to break.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Listen, Karen Leland's with us, and we thank you all so much for listening to us. We're coming to you live from the Superstation in Philadelphia, PA, the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM FM 24/7. Stay tuned so that you can improve how people see you as a candidate. We'll be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Why will you be required to show photo ID at the Nevada caucus on February 23rd? To protect the integrity of your vote. Why will nobody be required to show photo ID on November 4th when we pick a president? Because it's the law. You can change this. When you go to the Nevada caucus on Tuesday, February 23rd, sign the voter ID initiative at the door. It's simply wrong that your vote can be disenfranchised by anyone without a photo ID on Election Day. Sign the voter ID initiative now. Vote for it in November. You can protect your vote with one signature on your way to vote for the president on February 23rd. Security is one of the prime topics this year, so why not secure your vote with one signature? Sign the voter ID initiative to be sure your vote counts. The single best way to stop voter fraud is to sign the voter ID initiative. One signature starts the process to protect your vote forever in Nevada. Join Sharon Angle and Our Voice PAC. Visit OurVoicePAC.com to read the initiative. Let's change this and bring real integrity back to elections.
Paid for by Our Voice Nevada PAC, not affiliated with any candidate or candidates committee.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you would like to hear rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, www.ccrsnetwork.com and www.ccrshow.com. From mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com, or at 1 p.m., log on to www.roarradio.net, that's R-O-A-R radio.net, and at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. Now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. What a treat we have today. Karen Leland, who is the president of Sterling Marketing Group, is with us, and she's talking about branding and marketing strategy. Want to talk with you about how voters assess a candidate, because I deal with a lot of politicians, and they feel that if they have the issues and they have the right message, people will be naturally attracted to them. There's nothing else they need to do. Is that effectual?
That's funny. Sorry, please go ahead.
But it's true. It's true, and I talk with them, and they're just like that. But you spoke of 3 ways that individuals need to focus in order to make certain that they're viable and their brand is viable. Because your image is the only thing that you have left when everything else is down. You spoke about personal, you spoke about local, you spoke about global. Can you tell everyone what those 3 concepts are in terms of brand and marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So voters tend to have like a report card in their head and of 3 things that they're looking at. And they don't all necessarily have the same weight for each voter. But the 3 things, one is personal. So how well does this candidate match up with my personal values? And for some people, that's 90% of the vote. So, for example, typically with evangelical Christians, they're usually one-issue voters. So they tend to usually score a candidate's brand based on the degree to which that candidate matches up with their personal beliefs, right?
Yeah.
What's been interesting about Donald Trump, whether you like him or don't like him, but regardless, putting his politics aside, what's interesting about Donald Trump is he's been getting a certain percent of those evangelicals where some of his personal beliefs probably don't line up with theirs, but his other message, which is the other way you judge it, which is the global message and the local message, are lining up so strongly that it's swaying them, for some of them, even in the face of him not lining up necessarily with all their personal beliefs, which is what I think is fascinating from a branding point of view about what Donald Trump's been doing. So one is the personal brand, the personal values. The other is how are these people lining up in terms of the global values, which is how is this candidate going to globally address global issues, and is it similar to the way I believe global issues should be addressed? So, like, for example, climate change is a big one. And for some voters, they really look deeply at a candidate's relationship with climate change to see what is their stance, and how does that match up with the voter's own stance. Then you have people who vote, and the other sort of piece of the scorecard is locally. How much does this person match the local way that I think things should be handled? In other words, here at home, domestically, in my community, in my town, in my state, in my country. And for some people, the scorecard goes across all 3, and for some people they're just local, and for some people they're just global, and some people are a combination. But I think what candidates tend to do is they tend to get very stuck on focusing on just one, and they forget about the other 2, so they're excluding people from their message oftentimes.
They're in the RNC and also in the DNC, when it comes to Bernie Sanders, for Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders at least, there seems to be such an angst against these individuals. Now, I don't necessarily agree with either one of them philosophically or politically, but they have that inch, that niche that just makes them so prolific, even when more substantive people are facing them. Is that because the individuals who are voting maybe not as sharp, or is it just simply they've connected to something that others just can't?
Well, in my opinion, in case of Donald Trump, it's that they're just not that sharp. But I mean, honestly, I said to somebody the other day, this is the most fascinating presidential race we've had. The 2 leading people are a socialist and a narcissist. Wow. I mean, that's really something. Not to say Donald Trump doesn't have his fine points. He does. He's run businesses. He's a successful guy. He's a strong guy. I mean, he has his strengths and his weaknesses like everybody. But I think you're seeing what you're seeing with Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders is you're seeing the same things but on opposite ends of the polls, which is Donald Trump is completely, authentically his brand and has been from the beginning, and Bernie Sanders is completely, authentically his brand and has been from the beginning and remains so. And what you're seeing is that's why the strength of those two candidates is really the same, just on different sides of the poll.
Exactly. Listen, Rick Trader, our benevolent dictator, has a query regarding social media and specifically LinkedIn. You want to ask that question now?
Yeah, I do. Karen, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show. You know, Karen, earlier I was listening to your conversation with Ken before the break, and you mentioned LinkedIn, the social site LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is not a site that I participate in. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, but LinkedIn, with all these other sites, with all these other social media sites, with the websites that we have here at Conservative Commandos and Conservative Commandos Radio Network, I never bothered with LinkedIn. Why should I?
Well, that's a really good question. So here's the thing. All social media sites are not the same. So LinkedIn is the most popular for business to business. So if you're someone that's in business, LinkedIn is a place for you to be because that's the most popular business site. That's where people go for business. Facebook, on the other hand, is the business to consumer site. So if your market is a lot to consumers, which I would assume yours is as a radio show, then what happens is you're going to be more on Facebook because that's more relevant for you. It's just that in terms of like people that will do business with you, they will look you up on LinkedIn. In many ways, LinkedIn has replaced the resume. So it's like having your bio or your resume living live online. That's why LinkedIn's important to have.
Now, one of the things that you're right, Karen, when you say that our market, our listeners, that's one thing. But in my opinion, the highlight of the Conservative Commandos radio show is the guests that we bring on, like yourself, like Dr. Ben Carson, who we're going to be having on later today. So talk to me about that, how LinkedIn might help me there.
Well, the thing about LinkedIn is, let's say that you had a guest that you could probably get to anyone you wanted because of the show you are, but let's say that you had a particular sponsor you might want to have sponsor the show or something. You can look up who that person is and reach out to them and connect with them. So from your perspective, LinkedIn is probably going to be useful for you. Mostly it's just a landing place for a resume, but in terms of guests and people who call into the show, you might use LinkedIn as a reach out tool to find other guests, to find other resources. That's the way you might use it.
Karen, you're about to drop your 10th book, The Brand Mapping Strategy, and I know that I want to pick out that book. I need to read it to improve my brand. And I'm not shy to tell you that I am flawed.
Well, you know what? I am too, so don't feel bad.
Thank you. Why should individuals like myself in the publishing industry and the radio media industry, or just the school teacher, why should they pick up Brand Mapping Strategy to read for themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, I just want to say that the book's out in May, but it can be pre-ordered on Amazon. So I just want to let you know you do not have to wait till May. You can pre-order it now.
Awesome.
But, the thing is that we live in a world where anybody can go on the internet and can find out information about anybody in about 3.2 seconds. Few clicks. And so for people to say, well, branding doesn't impact me is completely false, because your life online, your social media life online does make a difference, does make an impact. There was a study done where they looked at the percentage of employers that go online and to check out job candidates. And it was a significantly high percent. While we're talking, I'll look it up for you because I can't remember it off the top of my head. But a vast majority of employers will look online. We'll look on Facebook. We'll look on Twitter. We'll look on LinkedIn to see, to check a candidate out. So because you're a teacher now in one school doesn't mean you won't be looking for a job in another school later. And what happens if those people go to look you up online and you're not there? That has a very deleterious effect on your personal brand when that happens.
Awesome. Listen, Karen, we need to have you come back because this is the one area that people fail in, and they fail legitimately. and they do it quietly and then go off into the sunset with great disappointment. You have a great website as well, which is very helpful. How can people get in contact with you? How can they get your book?
People can get in contact with me at www.Karen, Karen, Leland, Leland, KarenLeland.com. And so Karen at KarenLeland.com, and they can go to get the book. My website is www.KarenLeland.com. They can get the book at Amazon, The Brand Mapping Strategy. They can pre-order it now.
Perfect. We thank you so much for spending time with us. We look forward to you coming back, Karen, and helping us during the election period break out what makes the brands of these particular politicians much better than the others.
It was my sincere pleasure.
Thank you so much. It is indeed. Colonel James Wyatt will be joining us in just a few. He's talking about the Nanny Helen Burroughs Project, and he's going to do a great presentation down at Civitas Institute. So we want to make certain that you avail yourself to his insight. We are coming to you live, indeed it is, from the studios, 1360 AM, WNJC, our flagship station in Philadelphia, the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, indeed, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM FM 24/7. We will be right back with Colonel James Wyatt.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
Why will you be required to show photo ID at the Nevada caucus on February 23rd? To protect the integrity of your vote. Why will nobody be required to show photo ID on November 4th when we pick a president? Because it's the law. You can change this. When you go to the Nevada caucus on Tuesday, February 23rd, sign the voter ID initiative at the door. It's simply wrong that your vote can be disenfranchised by anyone without a photo ID on Election Day. Sign the voter ID initiative now. Vote for it in November. You can protect your vote with one signature on your way to vote for the president on February 23rd. Security is one of the prime topics this year, so why not secure your vote with one signature? Sign the voter ID initiative to be sure your vote counts. The single best way to stop voter fraud is to sign the voter ID initiative. One signature starts the process to protect your vote forever in Nevada. Join Sharon Angle and Our Voice PAC. Visit OurVoicePAC.com to read the initiative. Let's change this and bring real integrity back to elections.
Paid for by Our Voice Nevada PAC, not affiliated with any candidate or candidates committee.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you would like to hear rebroadcast of today's awesome show, please check out our website, www.ccrsnetwork.com and www.ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. Or at 1 p.m., log on to www.roarradio.net. That's ROAR radio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. Now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman actually marched with the Marching 100 band at Florida A&M College. He's gone on so far from there, in fact, and actually left the military, the U.S. Army, as a U.S. colonel. He was a program manager for a multi-billion-dollar communication system, but that was until he met Nannie Helen Burroughs. Today, we want to introduce to some, present to others, a very historic figure in the U.S. Army, Colonel James Wyatt. Good afternoon, sir. It's a great honor and privilege to have you on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, and thank God for your service to our country.
Mr. McClinton, it's a pleasure to be with you. I'm always honored to talk with you.
Thank you so much. The honor is indeed mine, and mine alone. Listen, you have spent the great majority of your life, you've traveled, you ascertained great honors to the U.S. military. How did you get stricken with this woman called Nannie Helen Burroughs?
Yeah, that's the story I'd like to tell. But let me first, Ken, mention the Marching 100 at Florida A&M.
Sure.
I'm from Norfolk, and I was already registered for Hampton Institute at the time. This is 1949.
Yes.
I got a $10 a month band scholarship to Florida A&M. Now, that shows how times have changed.
Hey, can I have to interrupt right here and ask our guest, is Drumline one of your favorite movies?
Yes, it is, of course. And the tuition was $44.50. So that shows how times have changed. Ken, I got involved with Nannie Helen Burroughs in 2008. I had just moved to the Washington metro area from New Jersey. I retired from the Army there in 1979. And I've been an avid golfer all of my life, and I was playing 4 times a week. My mother would have been very disappointed that I was playing that 4th day, and Sunday I should have been in church. And I decided to go and play Langston Golf Course here in Washington. One of my best friends is Rose Harper Elder, and Rose and her husband used to manage the golf course. So I was going over there to play from Fort Meade, which was my regular game, and I saw this street called Nannie Helen Burroughs Avenue.
Yeah.
I had never heard of Nannie Helen Burroughs. So when I questioned the guys with whom I played about who she was, they said, Jim, she established a school over there in Northeast years ago. So I went to the school and met the principal, but what really impressed me was as I walked into the school, there's a small museum. The school opened in 1909 and closed in 2013. There's a small museum, and there was a photo of Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, and James Weldon Johnson next to this lady named Nannie Helen Burroughs. I was so impressed that I went to the Library of Congress, where there were 110,000 pieces of information, which was established there many years ago by Professor Higginbottom, who was a professor at Harvard. Her relatives or grandfather had been Nannie Helen Burroughs' mentor at the 19th Street Baptist Church on 16th Street. I lived in the library for 2 years. I immediately quit golf. I had been playing 56 years. I lived in the library for 2 years, And that's how I came about the Nanny Helen Burroughs Project.
Wow. That, first and foremost, for a lot of people, giving up golf for anything is wildly amazing. But to give up golf for this beautiful woman, Nanny Helen Burroughs, now, what exactly was about her work that lit the flame in you that there was a message that needed to be spoken of in this day and time about this woman?
Very good question. First of all, it was the fact that I had never heard about her, and when I found that she did something that so many of our historic black women had not done, is that she was a civil rights leader, a religious leader, and also an educator. Most of them specialized in one particular area. And when I looked at that, and I looked at her message, the thing that came to my mind was that she really was an advocate of Frederick Douglass. And you remember Frederick Douglass's statement, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." And that's what brought me to Nanny, because as I studied her life, it was obvious to me that she advocated for teaching our children how to think, not what to think. So that to me is Nanny Helen Burroughs, and then I realized that in the poem "I Am Somebody," written by Dr. William Holmes Borders, that he was the head of the Divinity School at Morehouse in 1954, there's a poem, "I Am Somebody." And he says, "I am somebody. I am a molder of character in Nanny Burroughs." That's what drew me to her, Ken.
We are talking today with Colonel James Wyatt, a historic figure in the U.S. Army. If you ever do research on, if you're going to do something outside of the normal Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Black History Month study, I think you might want to take a look at Colonel James Wyatt and also at Nanny Helen Burroughs. Nanny Helen Burroughs was noted for the 3 R's and the 3 B's. And I want you to tell everyone what those 3 R's and 3 B's are, and if we're missing them in our society and culture of today.
Yeah, well, I think the 3 B's are the important thing. It was bath, Bible, and broom. And this is significant because this is what she established the school based upon: bath, Bible, and broom. The bath for cleanliness, the Bible for spirituality, and the broom for industrial. Nanny had a kind of a fight, a running battle with W.E.B. Du Bois, because W.E.B. Du Bois, of course, with his talented tenth, believed in higher education. Nanny was more allied to Booker T. Washington. She sort of felt that with our people just being less than a generation or so out of slavery, that she would rather have them deal in basic things like shoe repair and service in their homes, because she felt that it would be better that our people should have small salaries rather than to be in prison and to be poor. But when she started her school, she really had what was called a bilateral education. Yes. So she had these basic home economics, we call it, studies now, and she also had higher educational subjects such as Latin, etc. So I think the really big thing to talk about Burroughs and the school would be the bath, the Bible, and the broom, and the fact that this school went over for over 100 years. And
exactly.
That's what I
now, when we come back, Colonel, when we come back from this particular break, and we want you to stay on the line with us, because we want to talk about why those 3 B's are going to be so important next week when you go to North Carolina.
Yes.
Thank you. Stay on the line with us. We are talking with Colonel James Wyatt, the Nanny Helen Burroughs Project. You can find it on Facebook, the Nanny Helen Burroughs Project, and on the Internet. When we come back, we'll be talking with him about the Civitas Institute presentation that he has coming up. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to one of the best outlets for conservative news, and we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, PA, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM FM 24/7. Want to change the culture? Nanny Helen Burroughs. We'll be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm messy, but
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Why will you be required to show photo ID at the Nevada caucus on February 23rd? To protect the integrity of your vote. Why will nobody be required to show photo ID on November 4th when we pick a president? Because it's the law. You can change this. When you go to the Nevada caucus on Tuesday, February 23rd, sign the voter ID initiative at the door. It's simply wrong that your vote can be disenfranchised by anyone without a photo ID on Election Day. Sign the voter ID initiative now. Vote for it in November. You can protect your vote with one signature on your way to vote for the president on February 23rd. Security is one of the prime topics this year, so why not secure your vote with one signature? Sign the voter ID initiative to be sure your vote counts. The single best way to stop voter fraud is to sign the voter ID initiative. One signature starts the process to protect your vote forever in Nevada. Join Sharon Angle and Our Voice PAC. Visit OurVoicePAC.com to read the initiative. Let's change this and bring real integrity back to elections.
Paid for by Our Voice Nevada PAC, not affiliated with any candidate or candidates committee.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Today's show is jam-packed, and if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of it, please check out our website, www.ccrsnetwork.com and www.ccrshow.com. On mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. Or at 1 p.m., log on to www.roar, that's R-O-A-R, radio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. Now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Now, there's a telephone number I want to give you now that I want you to call after the show. It's 1-888-913-4315. That's 1-888-913-4315. Call Colonel James Wyatt to find out how you can get the Nanny Helen Burroughs Project in your community, rebuilding a culture of character. Is character missing from our society today, Colonel Wright?
Oh, I think it clearly is. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I do when I go out to speak is to talk about how we seem to have devolved into a mundane society, or a society that is very secular. And this is one of the things that Nanny Helen Burroughs talks about. Ken, I went out to speak to a group of first graders, and they asked me to come back, and they said, Colonel, we love your uniform. You taught us to remember our manners. You taught us to believe in God. I was talking to them about Nanny Helen Burroughs and her views and her visions. And these were the first graders, and then secondly to the fourth graders. So yes, I think we do need to think about character and ideals that Nanny spoke about.
Now, next week, you'll be in North Carolina, Cary, North Carolina, and I'll be there with you, sir, at the Civilist Institute for a presentation of the Conservative Leadership Conference, and you'll be talking about Nanny Helen Burroughs. First and foremost, why is this so important as a way of breaking down barriers to those who don't know Nanny Helen Burroughs?
Sure, I think it's very important because my display tells Nanny Helen Burroughs' story. About 3 years ago when I spoke to the National Council of Negro Women in Prince George's County, the president said, Colonel, we've heard about her, but we don't know about her. So I have a display which tells her story. And the biggest story that she tells is that we as blacks and whites or across the races don't know how to talk with each other. Nanny kind of takes us out of our comfort zone. Somewhere around 1900, she wrote 12 things the Negro must do for himself. And she also wrote 12 things white folks must stop doing. So I would like for people to go to my website, which is N as in Nanny Burroughs, info.org, and you will see how she talked beyond political parties and talked about ideals. For example, there's an article there about vote for jobs and justice. And at the end of that article, she simply says, you vote for the man in whom you conscientiously believe without coercion, scorn, or compromise. So hopefully by bringing Nanny into an audience which is black and white and ultra races, you will see a woman who in her lifetime, back in the 30s, for example, was working with people from the Southern Baptist Convention as they were dealing with the same problems we're dealing with today.
Awesome. nburroughsinfo.org. That's nburroughsinfo.org. Or you can simply Google the Nanny Helen Burroughs Project. How can people get in contact with you outside of those formats, sir?
Well, they can call the number that's on the website, or they can call my home directly, 443-949-9449. And Ken, what I like to say is that I don't do this for money. This is not a business. It's a passion.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, my therapist said, Jim, you got to learn to deal with this passion without pain.
Jim, I can understand that because let me tell you, that's why we do the Conservative Commandos radio show. Nobody pays us to do it. In fact, we pay. We pay out of our own pockets for the opportunity to do this show.
I'm glad to hear that.
And, you know, no one here gets paid.
None.
So, yeah, so when you talk about your passion, Ken and I can certainly appreciate that.
Yes, indeed. Colonel Wyatt, it was a great honor to have you on, especially during this prestigious month in the calendar. Again, how can people get in contact with you about Nanny Helen Burroughs?
Please go to my website or call my home number, which is 443-949-9449. Ken, can I make one final statement?
Go right ahead, sir.
Nanny Helen Burroughs was the first woman to give the commencement speech at Tuskegee Institute. This was in 1934. Let me read to you what she said at the end of her speech to the graduates. She told them that, yes, I've come all the way down here to tell you that there are no jobs out there for you, but there are 120 million waiting for you to create. But at the end of the presentation, she said, I met an old woman who was praying, and she said, Lord, please let me go up the smooth side of the mountain. And Nanny said, I told her, please don't ask me to go with you. I wanted to go up the rough side of the mountain because I knew there was a chance I might get to the top. But if I went up the smooth side, I might slide back down. Nanny,
ladies and gentlemen, Colonel James White, you need to get him into your city, changing your culture with the Nanny Helen Burroughs Project. Thank you so much for being on the air with us today, sir.
Thank you, Mr. McClinton. Glad to see you.
Good seeing you. God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, Darrell Glenn is running for the U.S. Senate out in Colorado. He will be joining us in just a few moments. He has a pressing matter before the president. What are you going to do about Antonin Scalia, sir? Are you going to the funeral or not? Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you so much for tuning in today. And if you are interested, we want to let you know that we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, PA, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7, Darrell Glenn and Ben Carson coming up shortly.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Why will you be required to show photo ID at the Nevada caucus on February 23rd? To protect the integrity of your vote. Why will nobody be required to show photo ID on November 4th when we pick a president? Because it's the law. You can change this. When you go to the Nevada caucus on Tuesday, February 23rd, sign the voter ID initiative at the door. It's simply wrong that your vote can be disenfranchised by anyone without a photo ID on Election Day. Sign the voter ID initiative now. Vote for it in November. You can protect your vote with one signature on your way to vote for the president on February 23rd. Security is one of the prime topics this year, so why not secure your vote with one signature? Sign the voter ID initiative to be sure your vote counts. The single best way to stop voter fraud is to sign the voter ID initiative. One signature starts the process to protect your vote forever in Nevada. Join Sharon Angle and Our Voice PAC. Visit OurVoicePAC.com to read the initiative. Let's change this and bring real integrity back to elections.
Paid for by Our Voice Nevada PAC, not affiliated with any candidate or candidates committee.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you would like to hear rebroadcasts of today's exceptional show, please check out our websites, www.ccrsnetwork.com and www.ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. Or at 1 p.m., log on to www.roarradio.network. That's ROAR radio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to the highplainsdailynews.com. Now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. In an age where we have just lost an originalist, a constitutionalist, there is still one running out in Colorado that might be able to bring a change and a fresh air to Washington, D.C. I want to introduce to some and present to others Daryl Glenn, who is a father, lawyer, retired Air Force officer, public servant, and hardworking American running for U.S. Senate out of Colorado. Good afternoon, sir. Great pleasure to have you on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network.
Hey, I'm really excited. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. And just want to let you know that we are being rebroadcast on 100.7 in Boulder, Colorado. So just to let you know that, so that your fans, a multitude of them, have an opportunity to hear you.
There's still Republicans in Boulder. We love them.
And whatever they're not, you'll change. Listen, want to get your serious commentary regarding the behavior of President Obama regarding Antonin Scalia and how you as an attorney feel about the behavior, the work of Antonin Scalia.
Well, he's a legal legend, and he's a strict constructionist, and I try to apply the same theory behind him. And my main concern is I understand you can read the Constitution, and the president has the right to put forth a nomination, but I am strongly encouraging this Congress to stand down, delay that, and allow the next administration to appoint this, because absolutely I'm not convinced that this sitting Senate will approve somebody with the character and the ability to strictly apply the Constitution to Justice Scalia. We have got to stand down. We need to fight here.
You indeed are correct about that. You are a strict construction, and you are running in this particular great state of Colorado. What motivated you to run for office?
I've always had the desire to serve my community, but frankly, I'm tired of people complaining. If you don't like what's happening within your community, if you're choosing to raise a family, then you need to raise your hand and actually get in the fight and do something about it. And as a father of two daughters, I look at what's happening in my country. I watch the administration run on a platform of hope and change, and the only thing I see is more racial division within this country. And I see the moral fiber of this country falling and falling to decay. And it's time for us to stand up and take our country back, and that's why I'm in the fight.
And the reason why I always ask that question is because, first and foremost, you're a very successful attorney out in Colorado. I mean, you would be giving up a great deal. Was your family supportive of your decision here? I mean, because you're taking them from a private lifestyle into the public chaos.
Well, the one thing, I've been involved in politics for 13 years. I was on city council for 8 years, and I'm currently a county commissioner, and I also am a licensed attorney. So the family's been living in the public eye for quite a while. But sometimes you need to put your country first, and you need to step up. And this is a calling that I have. I grew up as a Reagan baby, and I firmly believe that this is our opportunity to shine.
You served in the military. We're getting reports that the military, even after the promises of President Barack Obama and the changes that were made at the VA, is showing no signs of any real improvement. And that might be on a state-by-state, case-per-case conversation. However, nevertheless, military personnel as well as veterans are concerned about how they're being treated in this administration. What can you do as a senator that would change the way the military is being treated?
Well, number one, we need to make sure that we stand up and support the military, and we've got to work hand in hand with the executive branch and clearly define our rules of engagement. And it would be nice to actually have a president that is able to identify the enemy. And then we need to actually build a defense budget that supports the military and recognize the fact that the men and women that put themselves in harm's way deserve quality of care. even if that means providing them an opportunity to go into the private sector. It is absolutely unacceptable what's happening to our men and women that are serving, and people need to be fired.
Now, we've been watching the U.S. Senate pretty much cuddle this particular president on almost every budget decision, on every military decision. In fact, out of 203 justices and judges at the federal level that were considered, 201 have been accepted by this Senate, and this is supposed to be a Republican Senate. Is this acceptable in your purview? And secondly, what would you commit yourself to doing to make sure that that obstacle is overcome in the coming administration?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, because I have the privilege of running statewide. We've got 64 counties here, and I've been traveling around, and I can tell you the one consistent message that I'm hearing is people are tired of politicians promising one thing and then going to, whether it's Washington, D.C. or Colorado, and just basically caving in. They want us to stand for something, and that's what I'm committed to doing. And I'm sorry, if you've got to use the nuclear option and enforce the power of the purse, that's what they want us to do. But what I'm frustrated about is we need to put bill after bill after bill on the president's desk and let him veto it. And that way you can shine the light on where the bottleneck is, and it's on him. And this Congress has failed to do that.
Now, a lot of people say, well, that kind of talk, especially here within 495 where I operate on a nightly basis, that kind of talk is nonpartisan. That's just not right, man. We got to make a deal. We got to compromise. Is there room for compromise in the new Senate to come?
Well, you know what? People rally behind great ideals. When you put the country first and you get out to all the special interest groups, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you're focused on the customer, which are the constituents that are out there that you are basically blessed to be able to serve, and you're putting your country first, if you develop policies along that line with that mindset, Republicans and Democrats can rally behind that. That's precisely what Ronald Reagan did. When you look at those overwhelming election victories, it was not just Republicans. It was people that crossed over from both parties that rallied behind principles and ideals that were in the best interest of this country, and that's what we need to fight for, not all the special interest garbage that's out there.
Yes. Now, you call yourself a rule of law man, and you believe in making certain that there are no sanctuary cities and that individuals cross the border legally, no matter whether it's the northern or the southern border or east or west, that they come into our country by the law. That makes you non-Christian in the eyes of the Pope. Is that satisfactory to you, sir?
Well, I've listened to the Pope kind of backtrack from that, and I don't think that I think that he might have been baited into a little bit more of an answer than he really meant. But the bottom line is, I am very much so, a responsible Christian. And if you want to look at the Vatican, I think there's some nice walls up there too. But you have to enforce. You have to enforce the rule of law. Wall. That's exactly right.
Listen, Daryl, we are so glad to have you come on the air with us today. And because it's a big day, Dr. Ben Carson will be joining us in just a few moments. Is there anything that you're looking for in the presidential candidate that will help your campaign or help individuals identify the move that's necessary for this country? And then secondly, how can people support Daryl Glenn in winning the U.S. Senate race in Colorado?
Hey, I'm waiting for all of them to come out and endorse me and say, hey, regardless of our differences, we've got a great candidate. We got a great candidate in the state of Colorado. His name is Daryl Glenn. He's a Christian constitutional conservative, retired lieutenant colonel, pro-life, Second Amendment loving American, and we need him in the Senate. You can go to electdarylglenn.com. You can even call him on his cell phone at 719-271-6690. But he's going to remove Michael Bennet from the Senate. I'm Michael Bennett's worst nightmare. He doesn't want any part of me. And that's why the establishment is afraid of me, because I'm going to get up there and do the right thing and represent Colorado the way it should be.
Daryl Glenn, you are a diamond and a jewel, and we really appreciate you coming on the air with us today. Again, telephone number, email, or website. How can people get in contact with you?
Website, electdarylglenn.com. That's DARRYLGLENN. You can call me on my cell phone, 719-271-6690, and you can email me at glenncampaign@msn.com. We're going to win this. We're going to shock the world, and we're going to stand up for a Christian constitutional conservative principle.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Daryl Glenn, for coming on with us today. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Listen, we will be right back, and the next voice you'll hear will be the benevolent dictator, Rick Trader, talking to Dr. Ben Carson. We'll be right back.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Why will you be required to show photo ID at the Nevada caucus on February 23rd? To protect the integrity of your vote. Why will nobody be required to show photo ID on November 4th when we pick a president? Because it's the law. You can change this. When you go to the Nevada caucus on Tuesday, February 23rd, sign the voter ID initiative at the door. It's simply wrong that your vote can be disenfranchised by anyone without a photo ID on Election Day. Sign the voter ID initiative now. Vote for it in November. You can protect your vote with one signature on your way to vote for the president on February 23rd. Security is one of the prime topics this year, so why not secure your vote with one signature? Sign the voter ID initiative to be sure your vote counts. The single best way to stop voter fraud is to sign the voter ID initiative. One signature starts the process to protect your vote forever in Nevada. Join Sharon Angle and Our Voice PAC. Visit OurVoicePAC.com to read the initiative. Let's change this and bring real integrity back to elections.
Paid for by Our Voice Nevada PAC, not affiliated with any candidate or candidates committee.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Ken McClinton and yours truly, Rick Trader. And for rebroadcasts of our shows, please check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., please log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. At 1 p.m., roarradio.net. At 9 p.m., highplainsdailynews.com. Or you can hear this show and all the shows that are associated with the Conservative Commandos Radio Network anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. You don't need an app. You don't need to download anything. Just remember that number, 832-999-1199. Also, a little bit of other information here. Tomorrow at 12 noon, we will be broadcasting, and this is especially for the people in the Deptford, New Jersey area. We will be rebroadcasting a show that we did about the $100 million dirty little secret here in Deptford, which is actually turning out to be a $200 million tax increase. That's if the Board of Education gets its way. The Board of Education is another part of this dirty little secret. Is this election is only a couple of weeks away, and there's been no information put out by the Board of Education on this. So please tune in. Again, that's tomorrow at 12 noon here on WNJC 1360 about this dirty little secret by the Deptford Township Board of Education. So, Ken, we are waiting to hear from Dr. Ben Carson. He has been a guest with us before, so we hope that everything will work out.
Yeah, you know what? I just want to say this real quick to you, and I know that any moment now he'll be coming through, but I thank God for your dedication to the great people of Philadelphia and surrounding neighborhoods and communities to talk about the bond issue, especially at a time period where people just want to cover up and hide and just pass something and go along with it. And you're bringing to light the dirtiness of it. I mean, I applaud you, sir. That is what citizen journalism is really all about.
Well, Kenny, thank you for that. But my gosh, this is a community of about 30,000 people. It's not Philadelphia or New York or Washington or Newark, New Jersey, or even Trenton, New Jersey. This is a relatively small community. We're talking, as I said, a township with a population of 30,000 people. The Board of Education wants them to pass this $100 million bond issue. They're stacking the deck in their favor. They've put this election on a Tuesday afternoon. Polls don't open till 2 o'clock. They're open from 2 to 9 p.m. on March 8th at one location at the high school. And at 2 p.m. at the high school, there's a lot of traffic. I know. I go by that intersection a couple of times a day. That's a very high traffic area. So the Board of Education is, in my opinion, what they're trying to do is they're trying to force senior citizens not to come out and vote on this thing because they know traditionally they're the people who don't have children in school. They're the people who...
He's in a rally right now.
Oh, okay. We're getting word that Dr. Ben Carson is in a rally. And, John, let's take a quick break, and you and I can discuss this, and we'll find out what's going on. So you are listening to Conservative Commandos with Ken McClinton and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network at WNJC 1360. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Why will you be required to show photo ID at the Nevada caucus on February 23rd? To protect the integrity of your vote. Why will nobody be required to show photo ID on November 4th when we pick a president? Because it's the law. You can change this. When you go to the Nevada caucus on Tuesday, February 23rd, sign the voter ID initiative at the door. It's simply wrong that your vote can be disenfranchised by anyone without a photo ID on Election Day. Sign the voter ID initiative now. Vote for it in November. You can protect your vote with one signature on your way to vote for the president on February 23rd. Security is one of the prime topics this year, so why not secure your vote with one signature? Sign the voter ID initiative to be sure your vote counts. The single best way to stop voter fraud is to sign the voter ID initiative. One signature starts the process to protect your vote forever in Nevada. Join Sharon Angle and Our Voice PAC. Visit OurVoicePAC.com to read the initiative. Let's change this and bring real integrity back to elections.
Paid for by Our Voice Nevada PAC, not affiliated with any candidate or candidates committee.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Ken McClinton and yours truly, Rick Trader. And for rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. At 1 p.m., roarradio.net, or at 9 p.m., highplainsdailynews.com. Or you can hear this show and all the shows that are a part of the Conservative Commandos radio network anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Well, Ken, the realities of life in live radio is, it's not when it's going to if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. We've got a call from Dr. Carson's people. He is at a rally right now. He's trying to get out. Not sure that he's going to be able to do that by the time we're off the air. If not, we will reschedule him at another time, but that's life in live radio, my friend.
It is. It is. You never know what's going to happen in live radio.
Never know.
That's what makes it so exciting. You don't get this kind of thing on television, only in radio. But I can tell that he is celebrating the moving average for him has been 9% in South Carolina. Recently, there were those who showed that he was down as far as 6%. Mm-hmm. But recent polling, as of this morning, shows that he has advanced to 11%. I'm telling you, this is all upside down in South Carolina, what's been reported. And I really believe that there are going to be some surprises tomorrow afternoon, or at least tomorrow evening, when the numbers start coming out.
Yeah, I agree with that, Ken. I really do think that whatever the polls end up at, I think that Donald Trump will win in South Carolina, but I think those numbers will actually be, his margin of victory will be close. I say within 5 points. I think that, and here's my prediction, and please don't go betting money on this, I think that Ted Cruz will come in second. I think that Donald Trump will win by 5 percentage points or less. So we'll see. But looking at the polling sample right now, NBC actually has NBC News, Wall Street Journal poll actually has Cruz up by 2%. But then, the other polls have Trump up by double digits. And so we'll see. So this is a very interesting time, Ken. Very interesting time.
It is. It shows that people may not tell the pollsters exactly the truth. Sort of like Hillary, not necessarily telling the truth all the time.
Oh, I agree with that.
This weekend, I want to thank you so much for airing the New Day Black and Red program on 1360 AM on Saturdays at 5 p.m. Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, joins me. This weekend, we're going to be talking about two subjects. One is it Christian to protect your nation and its borders? And the second question is, has Black Lives Matter become the equivalent of Allah Akbar?
That's an interesting question.
Exactly. In Washington, D.C., a Bronze Star Marine was attacked vehemently by Black Lives Matter's mob, and his property stolen, and he was injured, of course. And it's only about 4 or 5 days out that the liberal media even began talking about this. And if it were not for conservative media like you and like myself and the underground professor and others, most of the world would have just carted this over into file 13. Thank God that people are coming forward and supporting Major Christopher Marquez out of Washington, D.C. God bless him, and may he recover well.
Ken, let me get your feelings about Beyonce. Beyonce is doing a concert in Tampa, Florida. She asked for police protection, and she was told that would not be available to her.
Oh, poo-poo. The millionaires, the super millionaires with access to Barack Hussein Obama at a phone moment. Listen, she can afford to pay for her own security. She can afford to have her own escort. Quite frankly, God bless the Tampa police for stating that they are not going to be prostituted by someone who is as hypocritical as Beyonce and her husband, Dr. Dre, and so on. Listen, those rock star, superstar, you don't need any support from the public sector. You go ahead and you get there the best way you can. And in fact, if you plan on being late, start off a whole lot earlier in traffic and you'll be just fine.
Well, after her performance at the Super Bowl, and I didn't quite understand, what her performance, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even watch it.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch her performance at the Super Bowl. I don't watch these Super Bowl halftime performances to me. I want to see the game. I don't care about the commercials. I don't care about the halftime or anything. I want to see the game. Bring on the game. I want a good, close game, and that's what I'm interested in when I watch the Super Bowl. So I didn't understand the brush up about her performance until the next day when people started to talk about it. But you can't come out and blast the police, praise the Black Panthers, praise Black Lives Matter, and then expect, the audacity that you expect the police to want to protect you. Yes, the police are paid to protect all of us. But as you said, she's got the money. I think that she should be able to have private protection. I have no problem with that. But to criticize the police, once again, makes no sense. Makes no sense to me. Ken, it looks like we are going to have to reschedule our interview with Dr. Ben Carson. But again, like I said, that's life in live radio.
There you go.
There you go. There you go. But for Ken, I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. We've had a great show, and I want to thank you for being part of it. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next week on the radio.